Hi, I'm Steve from D&B Audiotechnik, and today we are here in the heart of London, in the West End, to find out a little bit more about Gareth Owen sound and what makes him tick in venues like this.
Miranda Priestley is the editor-in-chief of Runway, not to mention a legend.
My name's Gareth Owen. I'm a musical theatre sound designer. I mainly work in New York and London, Broadway and the West End. We're here today at the Devil Wears Prada Theatre where we have a pretty elaborate sound system installed. How did I get into sound? Well, in my late teens I started working in a nightclub, doing the lighting in the nightclub. And the nightclub got a new owner, and the owner said, so I want to start doing live bands. Can you do the live sound for it? At the time, nobody there had any idea what good live sound was, which was great because I had no idea what good live sound was either. But it meant that I could make my mistakes and learn in a really quite safe environment where nobody really knew any better. And then I was at university, and for the May Ball, big sound company, SSE in Birmingham, came in to do the sound. And I did lie, I have to be honest. I said I was doing a degree in acoustics. I was actually doing a degree in underwater science. And I said, I'm doing a degree in acoustics. I'd love to do some work experience. And the sound engineer there said, you know what? In a couple of weeks' time, we're coming down to do BBC Music Live. You're welcome to come down and do work experience if you like. That resulted in me getting offered work. So my transition from rock and roll to musical theatre is actually quite a lot to do with a guy called Gert Sanner, who actually works for D&B as product specialist. Gert and I had done quite a lot of shows together. He said, yeah, I'm looking for somebody to mix my West End musical. Do you want to cover my West End musical? So I was like, yeah, you know what, why not? So I didn't have a lot of money, so I spent the entire summer living in a tent in the band's garden and mixing a West End musical in the evenings. Musical director on the show, he was off to do another show after that, a musical called Godspell, and he asked if I would go and work on that. And so I said yes. It was in a very rare period in musical theatre where people offered the job of touring sound engineer and sound designer as the same job. So suddenly I'd gone in 2 steps from being a rock and roll front of house engineer for, some pretty big acts, to the head of sound on a West End musical and the sound designer on a touring musical. And I just sort of grew from there, really. Something that I try really hard to do is every single time somebody comes to me with an opinion, be it an audience member, a director, producer, composer, or somebody on stage, I always try to look and listen to those points and thoughts objectively and sort of suspend my own ego in that. It's not always easy, but that I think has been quite a key thing in my longevity, perhaps, in this industry.
So you're taking in everybody's opinion, but there still must be a Gareth Owen sound, a thing that is your trademark you feel about the way you approach sound. What's your trademark?
My design philosophy, almost regardless of the type of show, is to not apologize for sound. I remember going to the movie theatre, and I think I was watching something like Braveheart. And there was these sweeping orchestra scores, and they go into battle, and timpani, dum, 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 and it's sort of shaking your chest. And then you go to the theatre, and, it was so apologetic. It was like the sound comes from the orchestra pit. We're pretending we don't have sound. The speakers are all hidden, the microphones are all hidden. Everything comes from the performers. It's coming from the orchestra pit. And there was no detail, there was no excitement. And I thought, why do we think this is what the audience wants these days? When I approach the sound design for a new show, I am rather a believer in what some people rather disparagingly call cut and paste sound design. I know what technology works. I know what speaker systems work, what radio mics work, what mixing desks work, and I know that those systems aren't limited to a particular type of show. I think how I decide which show is going to be on Soundscape and which show is going to be a traditional sound system, it's all slightly dependent on my mood on the day that I have to make the decision. The advantages of a Soundscape system for the audience, and indeed for the other people involved in the show, are generally quite significant. I remember having a conversation with the director of the musical Come From Away. When we brought the show to London, it was the first show on Soundscape in the West End. And we were able to localize the sound of all the different people saying all the different things directly to the performers. And the director said to me after a while, he said, you know, if I'd have had this technology at the beginning, he said, I would have staged this show differently. He said, because there's so many things that I do in this show to make sure that we know who's talking. So lights come up on people. There are gestures. He said, I have to do that because the sound doesn't. He said, doesn't draw your attention to where specific people are. He said, I never realized that when we were doing the original production. I also think there are fringe benefits with Soundscape that you don't initially realize. For example, if you've got a tracking system and you are locking objects to the people on stage as they move around, what I didn't realize is how many sound effects there are that you actually always want coming from a person. And with Soundscape, you can take the sound effects objects, lock them to the performer's trackers, and then wherever they are on stage, if you want the sound effect of somebody snapping their fingers, well, that's a played back recorded sound effect, but you lock it to that object and it's completely convincing because it's coming exactly from the performer. I think the thing that keeps me coming back, keeps me doing this, keeps me doing the next show and the next show and the next show is that moment of just standing there and watching the audience have an amazing time. People coming up to me in the street and saying, you know, I saw Spring Awakening on Broadway 12 years ago and I just wanted to say it changed my life. That's what the arts does. The arts inspires people. The arts makes people happy. The arts helps people work through their problems. The arts helps people see the world in a different way. And being a small part of that, just being a small part of that, that's what keeps me coming back to the theatre every day.